promised to explore options to address the challenges faced by households reliant on heating oil amid the conflict. And while perhaps the US is more insulated than the UK with its own vast energy supplies, the economic impact is beginning to bite for American consumers too, as Michelle Fleury reports from New York.
Petrol prices have just jumped about 50 cents in the last week, and drivers across America are noticing it. The national average is now about $3.49. Here in Tarrytown, it's closer to $3.69.
We have to fill her up because we work construction and we need gas.
Can you pass it on to your customers?
My customers? No, I can't. I can't do that.
The gas prices have been impacting us quite a bit, so I don't know if they're coming down or going back up yet or what.
It's happening because the war with Iran is disrupting oil shipments through a critical passageway. The Strait of Hormuz is a narrow shipping lane where about 20% of the world's oil passes. For drivers here, the higher prices are already changing habits.
Today I was looking at the prices and I decided that I would go for a lower octane than I otherwise would have.
Michelle Fleury, BBC News.
Strait of Hormuz is the strait between the Persian Gulf and the Gulf of Oman. It provides the only sea passage from the Persian Gulf to the ocean. It's one of the most strategically important disruption to traffic and economic impact. I'm speaking to founder and CEO of Crystal Energy, Carol Nackler, about its importance.
Well, in a sense it is true. They did not go and stop the ships from sailing. But then here, to be fair, the big brand who said any tanker crossing the strait on fire and still maintaining drone attacks and missile attacks across the region, that by itself is sufficient to stop traffic across the Strait of Hormuz, because one of the main consequences is that insurance companies don't provide coverage to those tankers crossing the strait, or some of them are more unrealistic fees to allow for that coverage. So yes, they did not go and stop the tankers from sailing through, but their actions and their threats on their own have caused serious consequences on the trade, and as a result we are seeing the price of oil prices and gas prices where they are today.
Explain that, because as we discussed in the program, the same volume of ships passing through the strait, and many of the energy fields are under attack. Some have closed. So why are the markets feeling a little more reassured this morning?
Well, first of all, I don't want to downplay what's happening there, because oil prices in particular are $30 higher or $25 higher than before the war started, and that is not a small increase. Yes, yesterday we saw much higher levels. At some point it was almost $120 a barrel, a massive jump. But today what we are seeing is a more linear picture. But we are still in the 90s, and that is not not much lower prices. We are still in the high price territory. Now the main factor that has played a role in the kind of reducing some of the heat in oil markets are the statements from the White House, from President Trump, who initiated that war, and then left everyone wondering how long that war going to last, because the longer it lasts, the more pain everybody's going to feel around the world because of higher prices. But then even that he said that the war is going to end very soon, kind of released some of that pressure on oil markets, and gave the reassurance that it's not going to drag on forever.
Oil and gas supplies around the region. Those South Asian countries that depend very much there's a B-52 bomber on the runway, one of three that have touched here in the UK in the last 24 hours. I can't tell you, I can't confirm whether or not it's already been
deployed to Iran, whether it's been involved in the strikes overnight, but certainly they'll be ready and prepared for an escalation in the
and yet Donald Trump says that many of his war aims are pretty much complete on this, the 11th day of the war. Iran says it will continue to fire its missiles into the region. There'll be fresh strikes across the Gulf today. We've seen them in Bahrain, in Kuwait, also in Saudi Arabia. The problem has been interpreting exactly what Donald Trump means when he says they're ahead of schedule. Does that mean that he will be ahead of his 3 to 4 week timeline? Or does it mean that the war will continue until the regime has fallen? I've been putting some of those questions to CBS correspondent Jared Hill.
The language that we're hearing from President Trump as well as from the rest of the administration is still incredibly vague on exactly where all of this is going. Yesterday, again, we heard President Trump say that the war with Iran would end soon. He said likely not this week, but that we are much further ahead of schedule than the previous 4 to 6 weeks that we had just heard from the White House a couple of days ago. But again, the big question that we're waiting for here is when will this wrap up? Because we also know that the Department of Defense is saying that we've only just begun in this fight. And so the messaging is not quite clear, something that we're going to be listening for today when Pete Hegseth is expected to speak.
But I noticed there's no talk of regime change in his latest pronouncements.
Correct. So there's no talk of regime change in his latest statement, but we have seen President Trump just recently, yesterday, pointing to what happened in Venezuela as a possible model for what he would like to see happen in Iran, where he says having someone from within the country, someone who's already in some capacity a part of the established governmental system, presumably, taking over as long as they essentially operate in the ways that he would like to see them operate. There's no talk of a name that he would like to see put up. He has commented on the fact that he feels that the son of the Ayatollah, the former Ayatollah, is not in his mind an ideal person to run the country. But he also isn't saying that he wants to see him out. So again, the language of that is vague as well.
He was meeting House Republicans yesterday in Florida. How concerned are they, how nervous are they about the price of gas on the board, the cost of living ahead of the midterms later in the year?